Good evening and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace and I'm here to fight CPS stop taking our children. We need the CPS stop taking our children. That's the number one thing they do. These CPS workers, you know, they brag they're professional um, kidnappers. Professional kidnappers. I was looking at 8 CPS social workers wearing a t-shirt. We are professional kidnappers. And on the back to put, where are your children? That's not funny. CPS is not supposed to be funny. But that agency has turned too many times sour. I did have a social worker on here as a guest. I'll tell you about it later. But let me go over the ground rules for this podcast. Yes, I'm live. And I want to thank Mr. Vincent W. Davis for producing this podcast. And he wants to hear from you if you need help or anything. It's 888-888-6582. Call in. I'll talk more about Mr. Davis. He's one of my rules. Now, there's 7 ways you can, interface with this podcast. I'd love to have you. One way is you can text comments to me about your CPS case if you need some help or a question, or you want to make some comments about CPS in general. All I ask is you have your name and your city and state you're from. And it's important because I'm trying to get a consensus of the United States. And it seems like over 500 people I've talked to in all 50 states, they all seem very similar. Common problem. CPS now thinks every child's in danger and traffics the children into foster care. That's terrible to say that. But please text a message. And if you're from another country, I'm glad to hear from you also. I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, Mexico, and Mozambique from Africa text into the show. So I know this is listening. You found us on Facebook. I'm broadcast on YouTube. I'm using StreamYard application. Now, another way is you can call in right now and be a guest on my show. I had a guest lined up for tonight, but I guess they had technical problems. So you can call in right now at 626-698-0990. And you can be on my show, and I'll put you on speakerphone. They won't see you, but they can hear you. And you can talk about your case, and maybe I can help you there. But I'd love to have someone in there that can talk more than myself. Now, if you don't want to talk now but would like to talk later, you can email me to my producer, Grace. She's a really hard worker, and she works really hard at what she does. So you email her at grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And she'll, you tell her what show you want to be, a morning show or an afternoon show. You know, I'm on every day, 7 days a week. That's 14 shows you can pick from. Now, my morning shows typically start at 10 o'clock for an hour, Pacific Standard Time. And then at nighttime, it's 7 o'clock for an hour, Pacific Standard Time. Now, tonight, I went 2 hours later. Instead of being at 7, I'm at 9. And so I try to let you all know ahead. But it's really important that I get your input and whatever you want to talk about and stuff. So right now you're at a point in your life where you've gotten involved with an agency that you thought is there the benefit or the help out the family reunification. I don't think CPS knows what the word reunification is. Their typical MO, when they hear an allegation, they think it's true. You're guilty before you're proven innocent. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. And on top of that, they come out to see you, and you're not supposed to let them in the home, but you do. And the media take your children because they say they're in imminent danger, which they're not. My children were taken from me that weren't in imminent danger. Yes, I had a CPS case myself. It was a bad case. And they stole my daughter, and I'm never going to forget that. That's a daughter I created out of love and raised for 12 years. And then she was brainwashed into thinking that she could divorce her parents, change her name, steal her birth certificate, and get adopted. She doesn't know all that at 12. That was the social worker doing the damage. They're accountable. Anyway, I'm here to help. I know right now you're frustrated. One of the biggest things, obstacles, called money. If you don't have money, you can't afford to get an attorney or get help. And that's the sad part because you need that. Yes, they do appoint a public defender, a lawyer, if you can't afford one, but that lawyer has 30 cases or more. They have too excessive load, and they're not going to fight for you, and they only meet you on the day you're court proceeding. They don't allow to talk to you, and they won't fight. They go with the flow. It's worthless to use a public defender. They don't know the law, they won't help you or spend the time. You need to really get a good attorney. And that leads me to rule number one. Why do we need an attorney with CPS? Well, they're very, very corrupt. Hi, Kay. Welcome. I'm sorry it's late for you. Kay is from Richmond, Kentucky, and she's 3 hours ahead of me. So it must be 9 to 10 to 11 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. It's midnight for her. And Kay is so dedicated to helping others and get the children back. And so it's good to see you tonight. It's good to see you. And if you want to call in and talk, I'd love to have you, Kay. I'd love to have you. I'm going on my rule number one, which you've heard. And rule number one is you need to have an attorney. You cannot fight this without an attorney. They're so bad. They're so, 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 so bad. Now think about open heart surgery. You got a heart that needs repair work done on it. It requires open heart surgery. Are you going to have a layperson work on your heart? Are you yourself going to try to work on your heart? No, you hire a professional, a doctor who's gone to medical school, who's done an internship, who's also mentored another doctor, who's licensed and capable. That's what you need with the attorney. You need an attorney that's licensed, and the kind of attorney you need is called family law. They'll do juvenile, dependency, and so forth, but it's basically called family law attorney. And you've got to find that attorney that can help represent you and knows how to navigate the perils of CPS. CPS is not your friend. And when I talk about CPS, I call about the child protection system. In California, it's CPS, is Child Protection Services. Other states, it's DCS, Department of Child Services. Other states, it's something else, and so forth. But when I say CPS, I'm talking about the ones that are supposed to help our children from abuse and neglect, and also supposed to do family reunification. So you need this kind of attorney because you'll find that dealing with CPS is like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in the rabbit hole, you go through all these doors, they go to nowhere. They don't like parents, they don't like elder parents, senior parents. They're against the idea of having parents do family reunification. They want to take your child. They want to traffic your child. They want to brainwash your child. And they do that illegally. But you need to get an attorney. And I didn't know for a year and a half. I tried to fight it, and I was going nowhere. I met with my director of social services, the child protection services, and it was a joke. Everything went in one ear, went out the other ear. He didn't help me at all. He did not help me at all. He had so much gold around his neck, I thought he'd fall over. I had meetings with him. I wrote emails. I fought for a year and a half. I went to all the supervisors and all the managers and everything and tried to tell them they're violating my civil rights and constitutional rights. They will violate your rights. They think there's so much power to direct policemen to do things for them, which they're not supposed to. CPS is very, 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 very corrupt. In fact, Faye was telling me about uh, a county in Richmond, Kentucky, that was getting audited, and they somehow couldn't come up with $389,000 was missing. I know it sounds like a lot of money. It's a $38 billion business a year as a whole. And I know they make the money because with my children, they charge $20 per month, $20,000 for each child. That's 3 children. That's 2 for $60,000. Times 100 children they have, that's 6 million. They're getting that per month. 6 million per month for 100 children. They definitely are into child trafficking. So with this rule number 1, getting an attorney, you need to have the city that your case is being in, that county, and the next biggest city up near there. So like I was telling someone this morning about Oregon, they're in Medford, Oregon, but then they had to get Portland, Oregon, which is close by. So they put in both ones. Then you're going to get a list. And from that list, you got to pick 10 of them from that web page and then look at each of them. And from that 10, drop it down to narrow it down to 5. And with 5, you want to really make the phone calls to them, find out if they have fought CPS, have got the children, and if they have references. But you need that attorney in place. Now, you can start off and scare the social workers away a little bit when they ask you questions or ask you something. You say, I have nothing to tell you. I need to talk to my attorney first. You want to use no, yes answers. The more you say, the more they're used against you. So you want to say no, to anybody invading your home, too. I mean, that's your castle. They're going to try to. They're going to try to stick their door in the way, but unless they have a court order, they can't come into your home. I'm telling you, the law is the home is your castle. It's a constitutional law. They have to ask for permission. Unless there's something happening in the moment, if there's some physical altercations happening, there's gunshot broke out. If the children in harm, yes, they need to interfere and they will come in. They will come in. So with rule number 1, you got it down to 5, and those are the ones you're going to call. Well, I'm going to give you one of them is Vincent W. Davis, and you need to call him. And he'll do a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. There's a ticket running at the bottom of my screen that takes you to his calendar. You can pick the date. You can talk to him for 30 minutes. But it's really important there. Now, Faye has said something here. I'm going to put it up here, Faye. Faye has an advocacy group, is starting a General Warren or new fundraiser, shoe drop-off boxes, to provide shoes to foster kids. An effort to help raise funds for parents in CPS cases for help providing funding for attorney transport to visits or funds for classes or paper documents, etc. Try to help eliminate some of the barriers parents have to reunification. Thank you, Faye. That's really nice of you to do so. Um, you see, Faye wants to help. Everybody wants to help. She has a case herself. And I've had a case where I lost my 3 kids. And I told you the success to getting help, is contacting an attorney for 30 minutes. It's only $60, and they can help you. They help you with strategies and how to fight CPS. They're not accountable, meaning that they will lie and they'll use police, to intimidate you. There are laws that have to be abided by, and it looks like the local police and CPS are in cahoots, and they railroad everything over you. It's sad. It really is sad. So then that takes care of rule number 1. And when you call into the office at 888-6582, make sure you say Bob Pace sent you. And then when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him also Bob Pace sent you. Now, I'm still looking for anybody that wants to talk. All they do is call 626-698-0990, and they can talk. And Faye, if you want to come on a little bit or come on now, you can talk too if you wanted to tell what you're doing with your advocacy group. Maybe there's something new you can share with us that's new in Kentucky. Now, that leads me into rule number 2. And rule number 2 is a clerical one. It's where you're going to take good notes. And I'm talking about a log of your incidents with your CPS case. You want to write down the date and time of each incident. You want to write down the people involved, the social workers, the police, etc. And then you want to list what the incident's about. Describe it. Then skip a couple lines, and you want to put the results, how it ended. Did you resolve it, or is it still open? And see, that's something you can look at for the next 9 months, 10 months, whatever it takes to have your case heard. Good evening.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Is this Faye?
Yes, Faye.
Okay. You got my voice in the background.
Yeah, I turned it down.
Okay, welcome. You're a night owl.
Um,
You're a night owl.
yeah, I'm up a lot during the night. I do a lot of research and a lot of work on my computer overnight. So,
So when are you going to be a co-host with me? Starting Friday?
um, if not Friday, probably starting the next week. It just depends on how
Sure.
everything's looking. I have a lot of stuff going on right now with my doctor's appointments and stuff, but I'm gonna try to Friday. If I can't Friday, then I'll definitely try next week.
Yep. And my Grace says there's somebody else that wants the co-host with us uh, recently too. And you may know her. She is. Let me see. She put on here Daniel Vaught. You've seen her on there. She's been on there, and she wants to be a co-host, and she's going to
Mhm.
try starting tomorrow morning. But I can have two guest co-hosts, so that'd be good too. They have three of us. I have no problem, and there's
Mhm.
no guarantee she'll be there anyway because having guest hosts is very hard to come by. I know you'll come on, which is good. So
Yeah.
that's really good. These were three rules. Are they really think helpful? Do you think people out there can really use them or not?
Well, I mean, I think that they help, yeah, but um, the problem with it is a lot of people, in these CPS cases, they're so stressed out and they're so overwhelmed that it's hard for them to focus on what they need to write down.
Right. I
So,
know that. To see, this is my problem. For a year and a half, I didn't take notes, and I wish I did.
yeah.
And so what I've tried to do is I try to tell them, you get a notebook and you start off with your first incident and you put the date and time and you put a list of people that are associated with the incident. Then you write the incident, take a line or two, and then you want to put, what the incident was about. And then you want to do the conclusion of the incident. Was it solved? And you may have to come back to it later. Then you skip a couple lines and you write your next incident. And then you skip a couple lines, your next incident, and so forth. And that way you keep it all together and you can find it. Now, if,
Right.
if you want to go,
I mean, it can be helpful.
yeah,
It can be helpful, of course, because, later on in your case, you may need to go back and find something that happened earlier. And if you didn't document it, then it's harder to remember and to know the
right.
dates and times of those things.
Well, I also tell people if they want to, you can put a tab in there, maybe go halfway through your book and start the other half of things that you learn or things like notes and stuff. Maybe have one section for
Mm-hmm.
incidents, the other section is for what you learned. Like maybe there's some web pages or phone numbers or people you need to contact and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can
Right.
you can even make the notebook more complex and put in, 7 tabs, and divide them into what they
Mm-hmm.
are. So, but anyway, taking good notes is important because you won't remember it 6 months from now. You won't remember it.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
of course, my third
Yeah.
rule is the one that I wish I'd known, and that is not to talk to social workers and not to let them in your home. Same with the police, not to talk to police, not let them in your home. And you can be professional
Well, let
about
me let
that.
me say something. Can I
Yeah,
say something about that, Bob?
I hope you can. That's why you're on
Um,
there.
yeah. So one of the things I know it's different from state to state, but I know here in Kentucky that if a social worker comes, they don't just call you by phone and say, "Oh, I want to meet up with you." Okay. A lot of times they just show up, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't answer the door the first time, then they'll leave a card and say, "Hey, I'm a social worker for the Cabinet of Health and Family Services, this is my work number. Please contact me as soon as possible. Okay, and they'll wait for you to call. Then if you don't call them, they come back out. And if you don't answer the door, they leave their card a second time. Okay, they wait for you to return their call. If they don't receive a call, then the third time they come out and you don't call back, or you don't answer the door, or you just act like you're not home, then the social worker gets aggravated because she's got all these cases that she has to deal with, all these investigations that she needs to do, and she feels like you're hindering her from doing her job by avoiding. So then she goes to the court and she says, well, I have this case and I can't make contact with the parent. The parent won't return my calls. I've left card after card, message after message. At this point, I feel like they're avoiding me doing the investigation. And so then she asks the court to compel the parents to cooperate. So that forces the parent to have to make contact with that social worker.
Mm-hmm. Well, why can't they do this? Why can't they, if they get the business card, like I did in the past, I just didn't tell them I had an attorney, but, they could call the social back and say, hi, you left a business card on my door. How can I help you? And then be a good listener. Don't try to say anything. Don't talk. And she says, well, there's been an allegation against you, and I want to talk to you about that. And you can say very nicely to the worker, okay, but I need to talk to my attorney first. You may not have an attorney, but you want a little bit of stall time so you can get an attorney, and you'll get back to them. I have an attorney. I'll get back to you. What that does is that now there is a response. It's not necessarily the response that the CPS worker wants, but you have called them back, and you say that you need to talk to your attorney. And so if it was me doing this all over again, I would have contacted an attorney, even if it cost me $60 to talk for 30 minutes. I would have talked to him and asked him, what should I do? I would ask that attorney, he or her, what should I do? And they may say, well, you need to hire an attorney, or your case sounds pretty bad. I mean, in 30 minutes, you can determine how bad your case is.
Well, a lot of the attorneys in Kentucky will tell you, well, common sense would be to tell you that cooperate with them to get your kids back. But we all know when we cooperate with CPS, we don't get our kids back.
Really? So the attorneys would give that recommendation to cooperate. They wouldn't say you need to hire an attorney.
They do tell you to hire an attorney, but they also tell you that the quickest way to get your children back from CPS is to cooperate.
Okay, I think that's great for Kentucky, but then I have another state like California is just the opposite, or the one up in Massachusetts or Maine. See, that's what I'm saying, is that it's the rules. My rules aren't fix all, I just...
Yeah, I know.
And I just have said the stall time. I didn't say not to respond to them. And the reason why I say not answer the door, unless they have a court order, you don't want them in your house because your house may not be ready for inspection.
Right.
Plus,
I understand that.
Plus, typically, they are taking children that aren't endangered, but they're taking them in.
Yeah.
This morning.
Yeah, they do it all the time. They did it to me.
Yeah. Did you hear this case this morning?
Yeah.
It was a mother from Oregon.
No, because...
Yeah, it's an Oregon from Oregon.
It kept cutting.
And she was sexually...
Yeah, it kept cutting out, so I didn't get to hear it.
Yeah, her kids were sexually molested by her stepbrother. She had 4 kids, and her stepbrother was having big problems and wanted to move in. So he moved in. Then one day he heard from her children or caught him, and he was molesting the kids. So she made the hard choice to call CPS. Now, see, I don't know if I would call CPS the way they've been in California. Now, in other states, I can only talk to the ones that have talked to me about their state. I know Arizona is really bad, especially after finding the pink T-shirts that were professional kidnappers.
Yeah, well, what generally happens when a mother reports that to CPS that their children have been molested by a family member, the father, the aunt, the uncle, the brother, the sister, CPS usually comes back on the mom and claims, well, you failed to protect your children. So they blame the mother as well.
True. But why do they? I mean, I know why they're taking this. If they go one step further, they'll come into the home, they'll see the home, and maybe you had things you shouldn't have had out. You weren't ready for your home inspection. See, what about them being directed to go to the office? Talk to them at their office, not your home. How would that work?
You mean bring the children to the office?
No, leave the children with a babysitter and come to the office and talk to them to find out what they want.
I mean, I don't guess there would be anything wrong with that. It's just, I don't see a lot of that.
Well, that's
here in Kentucky. It's usually
right. Well, see, what I was doing when I first started, I had 5 years of complaints. Every week there was a new complaint. It was being generated by my in-laws who are using CPS to try to alienate our children from us. So I met with them outside and never, at first I had them once or twice in my house. They said everything's fine, but I did not know about the law about not being in law in the house. Also, I did not know that they could go through and search your drawers. They do a lot of stuff like that. So what I've heard, or what's worked for me in California, is to get that attorney started. Talk to the attorney. They will advise you what to do. And most attorneys say, I have to inspect the home. We need to get an attorney going before you have them, because they'll end up taking your kids right away. They took my kids. They were in at home. They're in school, and they took them out of school because they thought they're in imminent danger. And that is wrong. That's wrong. My kids should never have been taken from me and my wife. And losing a job is not an excuse to take your kids. I mean, our house was big enough. Each kid had their own bedroom. And all I had to worry about was mortgage payments. And I was good for the first couple of years. But after a while, your money dries up. Because I was a very expensive home. I mean, it was a new home, too. And I showed them my refrigerator stuff. But the problem was I ended up talking too much to them. See, that's where you have to tell them, don't talk too much to them. It's simple yes, no answers. Yes, I have a husband. No, I don't have a husband. Yes, the kids were picked up by their grandmother. No, they weren't picked up by their grandmother. But don't go in there and say, yeah, my grandmother had this and this and that. And when you give them so much information, they'll use that against you.
Right.
And I think as we're trying to give advice to some of these parents right now, that you need to kind of feel them out. So I agree with you. Don't ignore them, because eventually they'll get a court order. They'll try to do something stupid and break the door down. So anytime you get a business card, respond to them right away. Hi, I'm following up on the business card you left at my home. I will need to talk to my attorney first, and I'll get back to you. And then after you talk to an attorney, whether it's your first time or you just talk to them or you've hired an attorney, they'll tell you what to say. And you can sit there and say, okay, I'd like to know more about the allegations. I can come down to your office. And they'll say, well, we need to do a home visit. He says, okay, I can see what my attorney says when we can do a home visit.
Well, in my experience with that, going to the office to talk to the social worker, when even in other cases with other parents that I've spoken with, they always say, oh, and bring the kids too. We want to see the children.
No,
so they'll want you to bring the kids with you.
No, what you do is, again, the initial step, I think, is when you want to talk to your attorney. If your attorney says, okay, to bring the kids, do so. but know the laws. If you bring the kids, they have to have a court order that take those kids.
Mhm.
They have to have a court.
Right.
Even if they say we want your kids, you say, "Do you have a court order?" And they say, "Well, we don't." When you get one, it's okay, get one. I'm leaving, and there's nothing can stop you. They can't stop you from
Well,
leaving
they
their
took my
office.
kids without a court order.
That's because you didn't
And
know
they,
any. You did not know that.
well, yeah, but there is a clause in the law here in Kentucky that states if the social worker feels that the situation is imminent or exigent, she doesn't need a court order.
Right, imminent danger, meaning that it's life or death, and that's the thing.
Right, but the imminent danger is not defined in the law, so imminent danger could be a lot of things in a social worker's opinion.
Yes, it can be, but then let's see what Kentucky says about imminent danger. Definition, addition of imminent danger in Kentucky. We'll do it state by state. They give you a code. They say per 803 KAR 2 colon semicolon 100. An imminent danger is any condition or practice in a place of employment where danger exists which could reasonably be expected to cause death or serious physical harm immediately or before the element of such danger can be eliminated through the enforcement procedures other provided by CPS. Now, I forgot the most important thing. I forgot the word CPS in the beginning. What do you call your agency in Kentucky?
Cabinet for Health and Family Services, so CHFS.
What is it again? D.
C as in cat. HFS.
Is that F as in Frank?
And then S as in snake. CHFS.
DCFS, right?
No, it's C as in cat.
All right.
H as in Henry. F as in Frank. S as in snake.
Okay. Just DHFS.
CHFS.
Got it. Now let me see what it does here.
Okay.
Reporting child abuse and neglect and dependency.
And it's in Kentucky.
Yes, it does say Kentucky. It says the CHFS definition of imminent danger in Kentucky. It says imminent danger, sexual abuse, and human trafficking, 24 hours. Non-intimate risk involving physical abuse. At risk, okay. What is the CDM risk levels? What does that mean? Identifies the likelihood of household future children protection service involvement for alleged child abuse or neglect. When considered alongside the SDM safety assessment, whatever SDM is, it can guide the decision of which families may most benefit from post investigation services. Now, go ahead.
No, you can keep going. I'm gonna look up something because.
Well, here, let me do this. Let me give you the link. I'll put it on the comments. Copy. Okay. Okay. That's a long one. Did you get it?
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking for something real quick. I'm just.
I think education is the number one factor that all parents need to educate themselves.
Uh-huh.
And I think if they understand, if someone asks for your kids, are you going to give your kids to strangers? Because they are strangers. You don't know what they're going to do with them.
Right.
And I think, like when you register them at school, don't you fill out who can see your kids in school? Who
What did
can,
you say?
when you fill out the card when they register for school, you put down what people can pick up your kids or talk to your kids, right?
Right.
And you don't put CPS workers on there.
Well, no, of course not.
But what I'm getting at is that it's something we don't think about because we trusted social workers. What I'm trying to get the information out to everybody is that you have to be heads up because the social workers aren't what they're supposed to be. Now there are good ones and bad ones, but I think lately there's a lot more bad ones than good ones. And to be on the safe side with my children, if I ever happen this happen again, I am going to respond. I always do that, but I'm not going to tell them a lot of things. It's yes, no answers. And on top of that, I'm going to ask the advice of an attorney. What should I do? Should I bring the kids down? Should I have the meeting? My house isn't cleaned, or you leave things out that are bad, that are no nos. So you need someone to go through your house, like an attorney, or maybe another family friend, to see if they identify anything that could be harmful to your kids. I'm just trying to get it in everybody's head that you need to be educated enough not to freely give your kids away because too many parents have told me they can't get their kids back. And they make promises that they never keep. I had these sweet ladies that have been working there a long time, and they would tell me, "Oh, don't worry, Mr. Pace. We know you're a respectable man. We know this, we know that. I'm well known in the community. I'm well known by the mayor and so forth. I'm well known in Southern California, and not because of my podcast, because I'd done a lot of work in the field of surfing, and that's where they knew me from the days I was in surfing contests and went around the world. But the situation is such is that they prey on that. They say, "Oh, don't worry, you say everything." So I start with my life history. I was born in such and such, and you should never give your life history because you're going to tell them things that they don't need to know all that. Specifically, you need to know what the alleges are. What are the allegations? And then you need to look them up, and you need time to look them up. You need time away from them. So that's why I tell them is that you will get back to them, and that you need to talk to your attorney first. So you go there on the computer and you look up the allegations. You look up the agency that you're dealing with, and it'll tell you. Like right now, I'm looking at Kentucky and I'm learning a lot. What I just picked up on that link I gave you takes you to um, the how to report child abuse. There's a lot of questions it gives you in there. Um, why do you have to call CPS in Kentucky? It asks. Current citizens have a legal obligations to make a report to DCBS when there's a reason to believe the child is being abused, neglected, dependent, or may be the victim of human trafficking or female genital mutilations. I don't know why they talk about female mutilations because that's something that you would think that in Africa or something. I don't think Kentucky has mutilations of females' genitalia. I think that's something in the African tribes do in Africa with girls, so they don't have feelings. So somehow in Kentucky, I guess there's a lot of that going on. There's human trafficking and female genital mutilations. I don't know if people in Kentucky are doing that. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, but they have the risk level criteria. It's like the risk level criteria in Kentucky. They say, um, well, that's the risk factor. They give a definition. Okay. Do you have to let CPS in your house in Kentucky? You were telling me that. In any state, you do not let CPS your home at all unless they have a signed court order. You may also ask to see it. Do not open the door. Have them hold it up to the window to verify it, and they must give you time to read it. And that's strictly from Kentucky.
What was it you're reading again? Because I don't understand.
Okay. There's these bullet points they have. You open them up. And the one I read right off the bat, it says, do you have to let CPS in your house in Kentucky?
Well, where's that from, though?
That's from the definition of imminent danger in Kentucky. That's from the Cabinet for Health and Family Service government in Kentucky.
It's chfs.kentucky.gov.
Yeah, I think so. It's https www.chfs.ky.gov, and it goes further on with documents and stuff. But it's bullet points. The link I gave you, if you did that link, you can scroll down, and it tells you exactly about Kentucky. And they say, you do not have to let them in your house at all unless they have a signed court order.
Well, I know what that's saying, but that's not how it's done here.
No, I know for a fact it probably is, because 99% of the people don't know CPS. You don't think about it. As you grow up as a child and you marry and have children, your thoughts aren't about CPS. And I'm only using CPS because it's a different acronym than yours, but the Child Protection System, CPS, you don't learn about. You don't learn that in high school. You don't learn that in college. If you want to be a social worker, I think there's a college degree in social work you can get, but it's not required. But you don't. And so you as a parent are taught to trust the police, trust the government agencies. You be treated fairly. And that's how I was. I said, geez, I have nothing to hide. This is a government agency. The city of Huntington Beach knows me. I have no problem. Sure, detective. Ask me questions. And, even my wife back then was saying, don't tell her too much. And like a fool, I did. I told her my whole life story. Because I thought by being honest, they'd treat me fair. And my case wasn't about drugs or abandonment or not wearing the right clothing or not feeding them or not going to school, corporate punishment, excessive corporate punishment. None of that was. Mine was neglect. And it was the neglect that was specified that I had my parents' belongings in boxes and furniture stacked too much in my house. They didn't like the idea when you walk around my house, they have one or two boxes stacked on top of each other or two chairs put together. They thought that could harm the children. Negligence should be neglected to the children. The problem is the children slept upstairs in their bedroom. And our house is so big, you could spread things out. We had vaulted high ceilings. We had a family room. We had a dining room. We had a kitchen. We had a den. Each kid had their own bathrooms, their own bedrooms. I mean, it was big enough. They weren't at all in imminent danger. There was not a box that was next to their bed that could fall on them. And that was my mistake, is that I did not know the word imminent danger. Now, if you have a child that is sitting in diapers that have been changed in 2 or 3 days, that child's in imminent danger from E. coli. They'll get in the bloodstream. And E. coli is a parasite and they can kill a child. Or if you've battered the child so much they have eyeballs with bruises and they have cut lips and stuff like that, they're in imminent danger. They need to be taken out of that surrounding. Or their crib is so badly put together it's going to collapse on them. Or they got maggots in their food they're feeding the kids. That's all imminent danger. But just because they go to bed and then they go through the house and they go to school doesn't mean they're in imminent danger. And my kids were taken from me when they were at school, not from the home. And they did it illegally because they didn't have a court order. They took them out of the school. And the school, I could have sued the school because they weren't on their emergency card to be taken from the school. The problem is the schools don't know about CPS. The police don't know about CPS. They know who they are, but CPS has taken it beyond the control. That's the biggest problem I see. That's the biggest problem. And I'm glad we're talking about this because you're a good parent, you're a loving mother, you've been through this and so forth, and you probably thought it was okay to have them come to your home and it's okay to have them take your kids. And that, yes, they'll promise to be back if I complete the plan, the program plan. I started working on things before they told me what to do. There were parenting classes I signed up for that weren't part of the plan that I did anyway to get ahead of the game. I signed up for programs right away. And I did all this in the whole purpose of getting my family returned to me. Instead, I had to constantly fight them with emails, and they knew I didn't have an attorney and my public defender was worthless. And so it dragged out for a year and a half. And they were waiting for the civil matter to end before they could handle their matter. See, I was charged on two different things. I had a police that went so crazy, they charged me the same thing that the social service was charging me. They're charged the same thing. Only thing is there was a criminal charge. It was a misdemeanor for neglect. See, you have to be careful when you're invading CPS can alert the police and they in turn can press charges for the same charges. It was dual charges and that's wrong.
Yeah.
And they kept me glued for a year. Nothing I could do with my kids. My kids were bounced around from shelter to group homes to foster single family homes. And they were abused. And there's nothing I could do about it. Nothing. Until I got an attorney. And then the attorney started laying the groundwork and started fighting them on the laws. Then since that, I've learned from my mistakes. I try to share with everybody that you don't talk to social workers and you don't give them your children unless they have a court order. You don't let them in your home. There's also this thing called medical trafficking, which is becoming really heavy now. Parents have a child that gets sick late at night and they need to take the child in to get urgent care or emergency. And then the doctor may say they need this or that. And the parent says, well, I need to have another doctor look at that. They suddenly call CPS and they'll take the children from them. And they do that right away. There's isolated cases. It isn't much, but there is medical trafficking where a parent, like here was a case of a parent had a child that was going through chemotherapy, but it was hurting her so much. And she wanted to have that child have an alternative method, which is the parent's prerogative. But instead, the CPS worker took the children from the hospital and took it away from her. And that was sad. They weren't neglected. They weren't abuse. They were disagreed with how, you see, you have parental rights and medical rights with your children. Unless they're taken away from, you get to pick what doctor your child goes to. There's been bad cases where they let a child die because of their religion. They won't get the medical attention. But this parent was not refusing medical attention. Oh. Oh no, did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Some weird recording came on and it just hung up the phone.
I am so sorry. I have no idea.
That's okay.
What happened. What's our time looking like? We got about 5 minutes. I was talking about medical trafficking. Have you heard about medical trafficking?
Yeah, I know about medical kidnap. My story was actually showcased on medical kidnap.
Right. And so what I'm saying is that that's a whole different area. But then again, you don't give up your parental rights, and they're wrong about doing that. Because, if you refuse any medical treatment, the child needs medical treatment, then you're in trouble. But if you tell the doctor, I want to seek another doctor's advice, another alternative method, you as a parent have that right legally to do that. You're not refusing medical help. You're just getting another method that may be better. And I was talking about a girl at 13 that was going through cancer treatment, and the chemotherapy was just hurting her too much. And her parents heard about another method with another doctor, and they wanted to try it. And I'm not talking about voodoo doctors. I'm not talking about witchcraft, anything else. But there's a lot of the medical trafficking going on. And yes, I remember now you mentioned that your children were, because you wanted another treatment for your child.
Well, what happened with my daughter was she was born 3 weeks early, and she had problems that the first hospital where I birthed her at didn't catch. So when I was released to go home with her, even after I had said in the hospital numerous times that something wasn't right with her and I kept getting ignored, when I got home with her, I was home maybe an hour tops, and my daughter, noticeably had something wrong. And so we all rushed over to her and we're like, what in the world? What is going on? And she had, she did turn blue in the face and had stopped breathing.
Wow.
And so we called 911, and 911, sent the ambulance, and the ambulance came, and they decided, to take us back to the hospital. And I told them, do not take me back to the first hospital where I birthed her at, because, I don't want to deal with them. I said, just go ahead and take me to Lexington Children's Hospital. So that's where they took us. And on the way to Children's Hospital, my daughter coded twice in the back of the ambulance.
Oh,
and then she coded a third time at the emergency room.
Wow.
And so she ended up spending a month of her life in the neonatal NICU there at the hospital, being, them trying to figure out just what happened with her. And she was in an induced coma. When a child comes into the ER in the shape that my daughter was in, they automatically look for child abuse.
Yes.
So they automatically put her through all the child abuse,
yes,
tests and scans and all of that. None of that came back positive. So they knew then it didn't have anything to do with child abuse. So then they started looking for medical reasons as to what was causing what was going on with her. And after all the tests came back, they concluded on the fact that she had gastroesophageal reflux disease that was silent, and stomach acids was coming up into her throat while she would eat, and she would aspirate, and it would go into her lungs. And she never cried in the hospital. She never cried on the way home from the hospital. She wouldn't cry to eat. She wouldn't cry when she peed or pooed. I mean, it was really odd. I'd never seen it before.
Wow.
And they also concluded that she had infant sleep apnea combined with that.
Wow.
So they said that the reason she wasn't able to cry in the hospital or going home in the car or in the home when she was at home with me was because simply her lungs was weak because they were filled with fluid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they pulled all kinds of junk out of her lungs at the children's hospital. And it was really really nasty looking stuff and everything. So the first hospital kept trying to tell me, "Oh, she's just a good baby. Be happy that she don't cry. You
Yeah.
know, you'll be able to go home and sleep through the night, and and
Yeah.
everything." And I was
Yeah.
like, "It's not about that for me. There's something wrong with my child. A mother knows when something's not right.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
and
I
they wouldn't
agree.
listen. Yeah, they wouldn't listen. So because the first hospital wouldn't listen, my daughter nearly died. She actually did die. They resuscitated her.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well,
So,
see,
but anyway,
you still had control of your child's rights, right?
yeah,
And see, that's
yeah.
what
Because
that's
I mean, there was no reason for me not to at that point.
no, because you're full. I mean, that's the thing is that too many times the CPS worker will say that, oh, I'm a clinical psychiatrist and I can diagnostic that you're doing something wrong with the child or something like that. And that's wrong. That's wrong interference. A parent can pick another hospital. It isn't automatic CPS to take that child from you. That's wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, Kate, this has been a late tonight because my show was late. I want to thank you, but I got to end the show. We're over by a minute, which is okay. Which is okay. But I
Yeah.
want to thank you for stepping in tonight to make the show interesting. You still, every time you
Very
come
welcome.
on, you make it interesting. And I hope you do look at being a co host. And maybe I'll see you on Friday, you say? That's tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll try to do it tomorrow. If for some reason I can't do it tomorrow, I'll try to do it next week.
Sure. That is great. And I'll be on the weekend. My regular times, 10 in the morning on Saturday, 10:30 on Sunday, and then at nighttime, 7 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So
Okay.
okay. Well, I'm going to say good night. And again, God bless everybody that listened tonight. I want to thank all the hearts and the thumbs up and stuff there. We only had one person calling. That was you, Kay, tonight. I don't think I see anybody else that called in tonight. Um,
Yeah.
it may be late. I don't know how my schedule looks. I have to look at my Facebook page because I want to know how they do that. I have to do that. So, anyway, I'll say good night. God bless. And this is Bob Pace
Okay.
signing off. And I'll see you at 10 o'clock in the morning for the ones that come.
All right.